Hello everybody. It looks like we have reached a break or make moment in the Azerbaijani-Armenian peace process. With the negotiations being slackened and the constructive spirit eroded and the tensions on the ground rising, one wonders what one should make of the current situation. My guest today is Nigar Arpadarai, member of the Azerbaijani Parliament. Welcome to Caliber, Mrs. Arpadarai. It's a great delight to welcome you here.
Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me.
It's our pleasure. Reports coming in from various sources seem to indicate that presently the risk of escalation is considerable. Some believe it is imminent. Even if it's not imminent, it is mounting. What is your reading of the situation?
Well, thank you very much, first of all, for having me here today. Well, I'm not a military expert to say how the escalation will go and whether we will have some military escalation. But one thing is clear that Azerbaijan is very decisive to enforce its constitution over all of its territory, because our patience is not limitless. There are certain things that we have been expecting from Armenian side. There is a trilateral statement which clearly said that what the obligation of both sides is, and we still see that Armenian side is violating it. We still see that Armenian side didn't withdraw its military from the parts of Karabakh under control of Russian military contingent. And this is something that we will not accept, This is something that Azerbaijan is not ready to accept, this gray zone on its territory. It's clear. Yes, of course, we want to have this non-military way of sorting things out. We always wanted that, and the proof to that is that we had, despite the fact that our territories were under occupation, despite the fact that there were 4 UN Security Council resolutions, dozens of our documents proving the fact of occupation by Armenia of Azerbaijani lands, we still were going to the peace talks. We were to negotiations. We've been trying to reach this liberation of our lands, but we couldn't do that. So now also our patience is not limitless. We are decisive to enforce our constitution in all of our territories. Let's see how it goes.
Well, let's see. And you mentioned about the grey zone, and within that zone, the separatist junta is still present. That's a zone within which Russian peacekeepers are temporarily deployed. And the fact that they are still there is a key obstacle to the peace treaty between Azerbaijan and Armenia. What is the likelihood of the probability that Azerbaijan will take some legitimate measures on the ground to be able to end this impunity and reassert its de facto sovereignty in Karabakh, you think?
I think I partly answered that question, but as I said, we are very decisive to enforce our constitution over all of our territories, and we've been waiting for 3 years until Armenia fulfills its obligations under trilateral statement, but we don't see it.
Yeah.
What we see is now Armenia jumping in and jumping out of negotiations, peace talks.
Yeah.
And it's already a pattern, by Prime Minister Pashinyan, how he thinks. He's saying one thing, but his deeds, his actions on the ground are different. And of course, this is not something that we will tolerate. We will not tolerate this gray zone on our territory. So as I said, let's see how it goes. We prefer non-military ways. But again, time will show.
I will specifically ask about Nikol Pashinyan's modus operandi, the way he behaves in the context of the peace negotiations. But first of all, I would like to ask about the current situation enveloping the Lachun Road and Aghdam-Khankendi Road. It looks like Armenia is very much insistent on the so-called humanitarian exclusivity of the Lachun Road, and Azerbaijan offers a viable alternative, Aghdam-Khankendi Road, which is perfectly in line with the principle of territorial integrity. So what we notice now, a kind of a tug-of-war between Armenia and Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan's position is perfectly in line with international law, whereas Armenia's position seems to be in the direction of ensuring some kind of continuous presence of separatist remnants in Karabakh. How and when do you think this tug-of-war will end between the two sides?
Well, in general, answering your question, like if we see how Armenian propaganda goes, they usually do, lots of fog around the things, this chaotic thing. And there are different types of narratives that they have, and they promote it internationally, in international media, in international organizations. One of them was this humanitarian catastrophe, as we say, like blockade, so-called blockade, which is purely political issue, which has nothing to do with humanitarian side of things. This was pure political issue disguised as humanitarian. So I will give you one example. You know, what I lately see, their new narrative is that poor Armenians of Karabakh are surrounded by Azerbaijani army. Like, this is absolutely a meaningless statement, because Karabakh is a part of Azerbaijan, and Armenians of Karabakh live in a territory under control of Russian military contingent. This is a part territory of Azerbaijan, which is technically and physically in the middle of Azerbaijan. So, of course, it is being surrounded by Azerbaijanis, by Azerbaijani army, by Azerbaijani cities. So the whole statement itself is absolutely meaningless. But they do it, you know, they promote it in a way to show, to play victim. This is what they do always, you know. They play victim. Even when the times when they occupied Azerbaijani territories, they were playing victim. This is something part of their
even
policy.
before the Second Karabakh War.
Even before the Second Karabakh War. Now, coming back to the roads, Aghdam Road, all the roads coming to that part where Armenians of Karabakh live, these are Azerbaijani roads. It's a part of Azerbaijan's transportation network, both Karabakh and Lachin roads.
Yeah.
So both the roads, Aghdam Road and Lachin Road, are part of Azerbaijan's transportation network. So the difference is that Aghdam Road is Azerbaijan's domestic road, Lachin Road goes to another country, Armenia, which means that there should be a border regime.
Yeah.
This is how common sense works, and this is how all the borders in the world work.
Sure.
So there should be a special like custom regime, I don't know, border regime, that there should be a set of papers that should be filled in to be able to get in. So this is a normal procedure.
Indeed.
The situation and the whole discussion is not around the road itself, but about the border checkpoint. But one thing should be clear for everyone, like there is not a single document, not the trilateral statement, and not any document that says that Azerbaijan gives some kind of exterritorial status to Lachin Road. It is not the case.
Yeah.
It is not the case, and this should be very clear for everyone. Even in the trilateral statement, Azerbaijan says that we guarantee safe passage of cargoes and vehicles and people. This is exactly what we are doing, but the rules still apply. Rules still apply. This is in line with Azerbaijan's obligations.
Yeah.
This is in line with international law.
Yeah.
So we are on our territory and the rules apply there. Aghdam Road, of course, it's the easiest way. It's the natural road to reach this place, to reach Khankendi. And it was open always. Like my grandfather used to commute between his home in Shusha and his workshop in Aghdam. So that's a normal thing that we used to live like that.
And it's faster as well.
Yes, it's faster, it's easier, it's more comfortable. And now this whole situation, it should be symbolic. Aghdam Road is a road to integrate this whole region. And this is our goal. We want to integrate Armenians of Karabakh into Azerbaijani society, where they will live a much better life, I must say.
Hopefully one day that will happen sooner than we may think. And also, as I understand from what you have said, Aghdam-Khankendi Road is internal road of Azerbaijan. There's no security risk. And we know what happened regarding the Lachin border checkpoint on the 15th of June. There was a shooting incident. And there were attempts to transport some kind of unauthorized goods through the Lachin border checkpoint. So it's very understandable. Also, what is quite extraordinary, we don't see the kind of support Ukraine gets with regard to its territorial integrity. Azerbaijan doesn't get the same level of support. But back in 2014, when Russians wanted to send so-called humanitarian supplies to the eastern regions of Ukraine, the international position was very clear. They said, you can't do that. Even if it's a humanitarian supply, you can't do it without the consent of the Ukrainian government. And we don't see the same approach regarding Azerbaijan, but I very much hope it will change the circumstance on the ground. And about ICRC, about International Committee of the Red Cross, it's a noble organization. They've done many good things across the globe, but their activities in Azerbaijan leave a lot of things to be desired. Their representation in Khankendi is answerable to Yerevan office, not to Baku office. Do you think something to that effect will change soon?
Well, if we discuss ICRC, first of all, let's remind what their mission is. They are delivering aid. They should be neutral and they shouldn't be involved into political negotiations. If they do it, they are violating their own mission. So the fact that ICRC operates on our territories via Yerevan, it's not right. I must say that it's not right. And we also see some kind of flirting with Armenian side from ICRC, unfortunately. And in this kind of situation, we can of course put under question ICRC's operation overall, because we can interpret it as politicization of the situation, involving itself into political negotiations. We do not do that. We are not now interested in that. But what I think we should do, we should be very pragmatic, and we should ask ICRC, suggest to ICRC to come up with some kind of a plan in a common sense deadline on how they are planning to resubordinate their operation to Baku office. This is a normal thing. Yeah. And we are expecting, we will be expecting a reply from them with the deadlines and with a proper commitment. If they refuse to do that, I believe that we can really think of the overall operation itself. Because as I said, they should be neutral. Yes, sure. They've done lots of good things, and we appreciate that, but they shouldn't be politicizing the whole thing. And as you said, they should operate via Baku office.
Yeah, it's a common sense.
It's a common sense.
And it's a practice all over the world. In Georgia, I believe the same practice is being put into practice. So it should be same in Azerbaijan as well. And also would like to ask your opinion about these so-called sham elections held in Khankendi a couple of days ago. When it comes to the international reaction, different statements coming from different sovereign states and international organizations, we see considerable support for Azerbaijan's territorial integrity. Everybody says that those sham elections, so-called elections, the framework within which they were held is totally unacceptable. It's beyond the sphere of law. But sometimes they say we condemn it, sometimes they don't say we condemn it. So we see different elements within this. Would you say, on the whole, those statements are perfectly in line with Azerbaijan's considered opinion and stance?
Well, first of all, this whole sham elections, as you said, so-called elections itself, what it reminded me, it was a kind of a mafia-type arrangement, you know. It's, let's put the words in a right way, let's say. This separatist regime, we call them separatists, but this is a proxy regime created by Armenia with the goal to annex Azerbaijani territories. This is what happened. Armenia was supporting directly and indirectly this regime. So, and in this situation, there are kind of warlords, you know, fighting between each other, and as a result of it, they have squeezed out Harutyunyan. And now there's a new person, unknown person, who became their president, let's say the leader. This is such an unacceptable way, absolutely, because what they did, they came together like 20 or 23 persons in a one room in Khankendi and elected their leader. Again, I want to return that for me, it's a gathering of criminals selecting their mafia leader. It's absolutely unacceptable. The overall thing is unacceptable. What we've seen, we've seen countries condemning these so-called elections, openly supporting Azerbaijan's territorial integrity. Others were keeping silent, but still the whole thing was let's say, with respect to Azerbaijan's territorial integrity. We've seen that. If you are asking me whether we see double standards, of course we do. Like I am being in Council of Europe and on the European space, we do it. We are used to it, unfortunately. But one thing is clear, that it doesn't help, like it doesn't stop Azerbaijan from doing what it intends to do, to bring law and order to this area, to stop this gray zone and to integrate our citizens, Armenians of Karabakh, into Azerbaijani territory, because these people are hostages of this criminal gathering.
Sure, and you rightly mentioned about the term separatist, because that junta has been created by the Armenian state. They are funneling money into the separatist junta on a regular basis. So,
even now they have in their budget financial support to this area.
Absolutely.
And they even have like a point, like it's the salaries of officials. Can you imagine, in their budget? So Armenia even today continues direct and indirect support to separatists.
That's the reason why Nikol Pashinyan expressed a readiness to recognize Azerbaijan's territorial integrity across 86,600 square kilometers is incomplete because, first of all, it's not a legally binding statement. It's a kind of political, moral obligation. And simultaneously, he recognizes Azerbaijan's territorial integrity, but doesn't do many other things which should be done as well. For example, removing the remnants of the Armenian armed formations, stopping funneling money into the separatist junta, and we'll come to that a bit later. But I would like to ask you specifically about the position of the European Union. Their statement by the spokesperson of the EU Council President reaffirmed EU support for Azerbaijan's territorial integrity, but there was one sentence which was quite interesting and slightly worrying as well. It said, we urge, I think something along the lines, so we urge the Karabakh Armenians to consolidate around their de facto leadership that is willing to engage in result-oriented discussions with Baku. What should we make of this sentence, in your judgment?
Well, yes, that was really unclear for me also. But again, the overall thing, the first part was positive in a sense that it was calling for territorial integrity of Azerbaijan. But generally speaking, what we see from the European space, let's say European Union, we see sometimes this kind of, statements from European Parliament, from Council of Europe, from EU sometimes. But generally speaking, I believe that this is something that French side is really doing and is getting involved and trying to kind of distort the whole thing. So yes, we wish we could have a different type of statement. But again, territorial integrity of Azerbaijan was mentioned. And again, whatever they say, it doesn't change the situation on the ground. The situation on the ground is there. Like Azerbaijan is keen to enforce its constitution over the territory. We said that we will not tolerate this gray zone. So it's all there. And I'm telling you that all this, even European countries, even France, they all know that international law on the side of Azerbaijan. So they cannot say anything because we are acting on our own territories.
Indeed. And what's about the United States of America? Because their role was considered to be more or less plausible for some considerable time, but we have started to receive some signals. Of course, we should distinguish between the official line of the US State Department and the hearings at the US Senate on foreign relations, in particular after what happened at the Senate, after that statement by Bob Menendez, lambasting Azerbaijan. Do you think US could still claim the role of a fair-minded mediator between Azerbaijan and Armenia?
Yeah, you're right. We have different signals from United States of America, but I would separate these signals from each other because American political system and an American society itself, they are not single voice, they have diverse voice. Yeah. In this particular sense, like Menendez, well, it's Menendez, right. It's a person his wife is Armenian, his lawyer is Armenian. Yeah. FBI was investigating for some time.
Probably more Armenian than Armenians themselves.
Absolutely, and he is like, there are lots of corruption scandals that his name is involved in. And of course, he's obviously anti-Azerbaijani. He's having this anti-Azerbaijani policy and trying to have artificial obstacles, trying to damage US-Azerbaijan relations. But one thing should be clear, that despite all this efforts by people like Menendez, Schiff, Pallone, whatever they do, the dynamic of US-Azerbaijan relations is very positive, especially during the last years. Why? Because it's in US national interests to cooperate with Azerbaijan, because Azerbaijan is a reliable partner for United States of America, and especially now it's in their interest. So Menendez is, yes, he is the one who is from congressional side. He's in foreign policy and making their statements, but they are not in line with US State Department. So this is clearly what we see. In this situation, what should we do? Of course, we should work in two directions. First, it's our traditional diplomacy, let's say. We have to work with all the structures within US, political system. On the other hand, we need public diplomacy. This is what is very important, and Azerbaijan should engage more in that, because what we see from Armenian sides, they are usually talking through different channels with different categories of people. For example, in one group, they are saying that we are Christians in South Caucasus, to these sentiments, they are calling for these sentiments. On the other side, they are saying that we are democracy, but I would say that democracy would never occupy territories of neighboring land. In Europe, I see them, for example, they talk to leftists, they talk to communists, and the far right, so in parallel. So I'm not saying that we should do the same, but we should know the different palitra of US policy and have voice and for all of them. So we have to be able to talk to all of them. Generally speaking, as I said, the dynamic of US-Azerbaijan relations is positive and it will be positive. Their mediation is also positive, but let's see how it goes.
And we also acknowledge that US contributed to the Brussels process as well, because remember, in early 2023, the Brussels format was on the verge of collapse, we remember, because they wanted to include France. Azerbaijan rejected this proposal, and for very good reasons. And then I remember in February of 2023, Secretary of State Blinken organized a meeting between President Aliyev and Prime Minister Pashinyan. That was a very important event, and then the whole thing was invigorated. So we acknowledge those positive elements in the US foreign policy. I would like to come back to the point about Nikol Pashinyan. What kind of person do you think he is? Because he's a very strange sort of character. He's not a great statesman, but he's a good political operator in one way or another. And in early September, he sent a congratulatory letter on the occasion of the so-called declaration of the separatist junta, which Azerbaijan perceived as a territorial claim. And that was very bad for the tempo in the peace negotiations. And then after the sham elections, he refrained from saying anything about those elections, saying that he can't go against international logic. So he's always sort of shilly-shallying and dilly-dallying as a chameleonic figure, time waster, procrastinator. First of all, will he change eventually? Because we need to sign a peace treaty with Armenia led by him. What is your perspective on this?
Well, personalities of Prime Minister Pashinyan is, of course, if we are discussing it, well, he showed during all this time that he is not a statesman. You know, he's not making decisions that will, in a long term, will save his nation, will help to strengthen statehood of Armenia. What he does, he's making decisions in accordance with daily circumstances. So he's a political survivor. He's a populist. I'm sorry for saying that, but this is the case. This is what we see. This is the reason that he's jumping in and jumping out of peace talks. You know, during the peace talks, he's making statements like recognizing territorial integrity of Azerbaijan, but then his action is not in line with what he said. So he's sending congratulatory letter to independence of the thing. So, but one thing for me is clear, and I've been repeating it for some time now, that it's not about his personality itself, you know, it's about the overall political system of Armenia. Because whoever comes, we have to speak about their political system. Their political system is built around territorial claims toward neighbors. You know, territorial claims towards Azerbaijan are mentioned in their constitution, in their declaration of independence, are confirmed by Constitutional Court of Armenia. They are being, integrated into education system, into state emblems, into even their version of Christianity, like into their religion. So the whole political system is built around territorial claims. So there should be some other type of a person to be able to change it. They need political reforms. They need strong will. They need a long process to do that. Prime Minister Pashinyan, is he that type of a person? To me, not. He's not going to do that. And again, as I said, he's not a statesman, so unfortunately, we cannot rely on his words. And what is sad is that even if we sign this peace deal with Armenia, with this kind of approach, with this kind of political system, I'm not sure that they will be fulfilling the terms of peace deal. You know, this is a big question how it's gonna be. Because they have signed trilateral statement, but still we have remnants of Armenian army.
And Article 9 has not been fulfilled as well.
And Article 9 hasn't been implemented. So if you ask me, this personality is important. He's not the type of a person who will be able to bring this process to the end. But on the other hand, it's not only about his personality, but the overall political system. And what we see now, he's playing with with Russia and with the West. He's flirting with the West. He's sending, these clear messages that he wants to distance himself from Russia. And we've spoken about the U.S.-Azerbaijan relations, but in this perspective, we see that he's making that military trainings with United States of America.
Sure, that's fine.
All these are statements. All these are loud messages. But what are the silent side of it? Silent side of it is that the borders of Armenia are being guarded by Russia. Their railways are being controlled by Russia. Their Yerevan International Airport are being controlled by Russians. So the whole thing, will they be able to let's say, distance themselves? Again, answering Pashinyan's personality, I think no.
Recently, Dr. Robert Cutler, he's a famous expert, he's based in Canada, gave a brilliant description of Pashinyan's character, and this is perfectly in line with your description as well. He said that his short-term tactical moves are not integrated into his strategic plan, because there's no strategic plan. He's moving in all directions, and quite often he looks directionless. That was, I suppose, brilliant description. And back to the internal Azerbaijani situation regarding the dialogue between Baku, between the contact group led by your colleague, Ramin Mammadov, MP, and the representatives of the Armenian residents of Karabakh. We remember there was a meeting on the 1st of March and there were some hopes, but this dialogue does no longer seem to be there. It should be resumed. We observe what's happening inside the separatist junta. We know after the sham elections, the so-called first minister is now so-called president, Shahramanyan, known for his close ties with Baku Sahakian and Arkady Gukasyan. It looks like a Karabakh clan takeover in Khankendi. And there's another guy called Ishkhanyan, so-called Speaker of the Parliament, Dashnakshtun Party. I don't think we need to explain what Dashnakshtun means. So with these people there, could the dialogue between Baku and the representatives of Karabakh Armenians resume anytime soon? Because that dialogue is key and your colleague is leading that contact group.
Well, unfortunately, the Armenians of Karabakh are hostages of these people. I want to repeat that. These people have been, I want to remind one thing, most of the people that you said, the leadership of these separatists, they have been involved into war crimes against Azerbaijan. And of course, for them, integration is like a suicide.
Sure.
They will never allow this dialogue because for them it's the end. They understand that the countdown is has started. They understand that their time is over, and they won't accept this integration to happen. But Azerbaijan's position is also very clear, and our president mentioned many times, they are citizens of Azerbaijan. We are ready to guarantee all the rights within our constitution to these people. We have many nations living together and all in dignity and respect, so they will have the same type of rights. Our window for dialogue with residents is open. As you said, my colleague has been also assigned for that. But these people, these criminals, as I said, they will not allow it. And I don't feel that with them any kind of discussion is possible. We will not accept that. We will not allow that. Because with residents, of course, lots of things like economic factors and others can be discussed. But we will not get into any political negotiations with junta. That's absolutely correct. As I said, we are decisive to enforce our constitution in this territory. So, and they will have to be responsible for all the atrocities that criminals have committed.
Although in some statements of the US State Department, they still use the term Nagorno-Karabakh as some kind of a territorial unit. But we understand inside Azerbaijan, there's a Karabakh economic region of Azerbaijan, there's Khankendi in its outskirts, and Armenians are living there. And I think the formulation developed by the European Union is perfectly sensible. They say dialogue between Baku, it's internal dialogue, and the representatives of Armenians living in the former Nagorno-Karabakh Autonomous Oblast of Azerbaijan. So the former thing is absolutely key. But of course, that separatist junta should be disarmed and disbanded. And one wonders how it will happen. Of course, we can't, I suppose, respond to this question. But I think from what you said, it is very clear Azerbaijan has got this right to exercise legitimate force, if necessary, within its borders. And it's perfectly in line with international law. I think We concur
Yes,
on that.
absolutely. And, you know, when being asked that Armenians in Karabakh, they leave, some kind of their rights, I'm always saying that we should ask how many Azerbaijanis live there in Khankendi? Zero.
Yeah.
Why? Because they've all been expelled. They
Yeah.
also have rights. They want to go back to their lands, to their
Sure.
hometowns. And I'm very happy to see, you know, all these people going back to Fizuli, to Lachin, to their lands, to their land of their ancestors. This is what should happen. Integration is a key. This is our goal. Law and order is our goal. So this grey regime, this grey zone will no longer
can't be tolerated, of course. And my last question, Mr. Arpadarai, I put it to Mr. Hajizadeh when he was here yesterday. What is the likelihood of the probability that we will sign something by the end of the year? I mean, by December? Because we understand peace treaty cannot be signed without Karabakh component being resolved. There will be no mention of Karabakh within the text of a peace treaty, but something should happen on the ground in Karabakh for us to be able to sign that peace treaty. Do you think it's likely that we will achieve something by the end of the year?
I don't know what Mr. Hajizadeh answered, but again,
he was very kind of cautious, diplomatic, as
I can imagine. Well, my personal opinion is that I don't feel that we will be able to sign it, because there are certain things that we expect, like remnants of Armenian army should be withdrawn, should be removed.
Yeah.
Article 9 of trilateral statement, etc. It should be done. And with, again, as I said, even if we sign this,
it should be backed up with something else.
It shouldn't be a piece of paper.
Right.
It should be a legally binding document. For Azerbaijan, whenever we sign something, for us, it means something, you know. We never violate our own obligations. From Armenian side, we don't see it. We don't see it. So that's why I think that I don't feel that we will sign the peace treaty by the end of the year. Hopefully will, but hopefully even if we will and when we will, Armenian side will take it seriously.
I see. Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Arpadarai. It's a lovely conversation. I'm most grateful to you for your time. Wish you all the best, and I hope we will have further opportunities in the fullness of time.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
My pleasure.